Hi, Aqua Roomers. It's chapter reading time. Yesterday we started the chapter on Christmas. And if you remember, Laura and Mary learned how to make candy in the snow. That was so much fun. And Aunt Eliza, Uncle Peter, and the cousins Peter and Alice are coming to spend Christmas. They arrived in their big bobsled, all covered in robes. When they came in, the little house was full and running over. Black Susan ran out and hid in the barn. Jack leaped in circles through the snow, barking as though he would never stop. Now there were cousins to play with. As soon as Aunt Eliza had unwrapped them, Peter and Alice and Ella and Laura and Mary began to run and shout. At last Aunt Eliza told them to be quiet. Then Alice said, I tell you what let's do. Let's make pictures. Alice said they must go outdoors to do it. And Ma thought it was too cold for Laura to play outdoors. But when she saw how disappointed Laura was, she said she might go, after all, for a little while. She put on Laura's coat and mittens and the warm cape with the hood and wrapped the muffler around her neck and let her go. Laura had never had so much fun. All morning she played outdoors in the snow with Alice and Ella and Peter and Mary making pictures. This is the way they did it. Each one by herself climbed up on a tree stump, and then all at once, holding their arms out wide, they fell off the stumps into the soft, deep snow. They fell flat on their faces. Then they tried to get up without spoiling the marks they made when they fell. If they did, there in the snow were 5 holes, shaped almost exactly like 4 little girls and a boy, arms and legs and all. They called these their pictures. So you see? They stand on the tree stump and they go face down in the snow. But you have to get up and not spoil the picture in the snow. Would you be scared to do that? Oh, I think you'd be very brave. They played so hard all day that when night came, they were too excited to sleep. But they must sleep or Santa Claus would not come. So they hung their stockings by the fireplace and said their prayers and went to bed. Alice and Ella and Mary and Laura, all in one big bed on the floor. Peter had the trundle bed. Aunt Eliza and Uncle Peter were going to sleep in the big bed, and another bed was made on the attic floor for Pa and Ma. The buffalo robes and all the blankets had been brought in from Uncle Peter's sled, so there were enough covers for everybody. Pa and Ma and Aunt Eliza and Uncle Peter sat by the fire talking, and just as Laura was drifting off to sleep, she heard Uncle Peter say, Eliza had a narrow squeak the other day when I was away at Lake City. You know Prince, that big dog of mine? Laura was wide awake at once. She always liked to hear about dogs. She lay still as a mouse and looked at the firelight flickering on the log walls, and she listened to Uncle Peter. Well, Uncle Peter said, early in the morning, Eliza started to the spring to get a pail of water, and Prince was following her. She got to the edge of the ravine where the path goes down to the spring, and all of a sudden, Prince set his teeth in the back of her skirt and pulled. You know what a big dog he is. Eliza scolded him, but he wouldn't let go. And he's so big and strong, she couldn't get away from him. He kept backing and pulling till he tore a piece out of her skirt. It was my blueprint, Aunt Eliza said to Ma. Dear me, Ma said. He tore a big piece right out of the back of it. Aunt Eliza said, I was so mad, I could have whipped him for it, but he growled at me. Prince growled at you, Pa said. Yes, said Aunt Eliza. So then she started on again toward the spring, Uncle Peter went on. But Prince jumped into the path ahead of her and snarled at her. Ah. He paid no attention to her talking and scolding. He just kept on showing his teeth and snarling, and when she tried to get past him, he kept in front of her, and he snapped at her. That scared her. I should think it would, Ma said. He was so savage. I thought he was going to bite me, said Aunt Eliza. I believe he would have. I never heard of such a thing, said Ma. What on earth did you do? I turned around and I ran into the house where the children were and slammed the door, Aunt Eliza answered. Of course Prince was savage with strangers, said Uncle Peter, but he was always so kind to Eliza and the children. I felt perfectly safe to leave them with him. Eliza couldn't understand it at all. After she got into the house, he kept pacing around and growling. Every time she started to open the door, he jumped at her and he snarled. Had he gone mad? Said Ma. That's what I thought, said Aunt Eliza. I didn't know what to do. There I was, shut up in the house with the children and not daring to go out. And we didn't have any water. I couldn't even get any snow to melt. Every time I opened the door, so much as a crack, Prince acted like he would tear me to pieces. How long did this go on? Pa asked. All day, till late in the afternoon, Aunt Eliza said. Peter had taken the gun, or I would have shot him. Along late in the afternoon, Uncle Peter said, he got quiet and lay down in front of the door. Eliza thought he was asleep, and she made up her mind to try to slip past him and get to the spring for some water. So she opened the door quietly, but of course he woke up right away. When he saw she had the pail in her hand, he got up and walked ahead of her to the spring, just the same as usual. And there, all around the spring, in the snow, were the fresh tracks of a panther. The tracks were as big as my hand, said Aunt Eliza. Yes, Peter said. He was a big fellow. His tracks were the biggest I ever saw. He would have got Eliza for sure if Prince had let her go to the spring in the morning. I saw the tracks. He'd been lying up in that big oak tree over the spring, waiting for some animal to come there for water. Undoubtedly, he would have dropped down on her. Night was coming on when she saw the tracks, and she didn't waste any time getting back to the house with her pail of water. Prince followed close behind, looking back into the ravine now and then. I took him into the house with me, Aunt Eliza said, and we all stayed inside till Peter came home. Did you get him? Pa asked Uncle Peter. No, Uncle Peter said. I took my gun and hunted all around the place, but I couldn't find him. I saw some more of his tracks. He'd gone on north, farther into the big woods. Alice and Ella and Mary were all wide awake now, and Laura put her head under the covers, and she whispered to Alice, "My, weren't you scared?" Alice whispered back. She was scared, but Ella was scareder. And Ella whispered, she wasn't either, any such thing. Well, anyway, you made more fuss about being thirsty, Alice whispered. They lay there whispering about it all. Ma said, Charles, those children will never get to sleep unless you play for them. So Pa got down his fiddle. The room was still and warm and full of firelight. Ma's shadow and Aunt Eliza's and Uncle Peter's were big and quivering on the walls in the flickering firelight, and Pa's fiddle sang merrily to itself. It sang Monkey Musk and The Red Heifer, The Devil's Dream, and Arkansas Traveler. And Laura went to sleep while Pa and the fiddle were both softly singing, "My darling Nellie Gray, they've taken you away, and I'll never see my darling anymore." In the morning, they all woke up almost at the same moment. They looked at their stockings and something was in them. Santa Claus had been there. Alice and Ella and Laura in their red flannel nightgowns and Peter in his red flannel nightshirt all ran, shouting to see what he had brought. In each stocking, there was a pair of bright red mittens, and there was a long flat stick of red and white striped peppermint candy, all beautifully notched along the side. They were all so happy they could hardly speak at first. They just looked with shining eyes at those lovely Christmas presents. But Laura was the happiest of all. Laura had a rag doll. Do you remember? Laura didn't have a doll. Mary did, and Laura just had a corn cob. That was her only doll. She was a beautiful doll. She had the face of a white cloth with black button eyes. A black pencil had made her eyebrows, and her cheeks and her mouth were red with ink made from pokeberries. Her hair was black yarn that had been knit and raveled so that it was curly. She had little red flannel stockings and little black cloth gaiters for shoes, and her dress was pretty pink and blue calico. She was so beautiful that Laura could not say a word. She just held her tight and forgot everything else. She did not know that everyone else was looking at her. Look. There are the mittens. And look, there's Laura with the doll. But guess what? It's almost the magic page. See? That's her doll. And that's the whole family with the cousins. I am so glad. So she did not know that everyone was looking at her till Aunt Eliza said, "Did you ever see such big eyes?" The other girls were not jealous because Laura had mittens and candy and a doll, because Laura was the littlest girl, except for baby Carrie and Aunt Eliza's little baby, Dolly Varden. The babies were too small for dolls. They were so small, they did not even know about Santa Claus. They just put their fingers in their mouths and wriggled because of all the excitement. Laura sat down on the edge of the bed and she held her doll. She loved her red mittens and she loved the candy, but she loved her doll best of all, and she named her Charlotte. Then we now have two Charlottes. Oh my gosh, Charlotte's Web and Charlotte in our class, and now three Charlottes. Her doll is Charlotte. Then they all looked at each other's mittens and tried on their own, and Peter bit a large piece out of his stick of candy, but Alice and Ella and Mary and Laura licked theirs to make it last longer. "Well, well," Uncle Peter said, "isn't there even one stocking with nothing but a switch in it? My, have you all been such good children?" But they didn't believe that Santa Claus could really have given any of them nothing but a switch. That happened to some children, but it couldn't happen to them. It was so hard to be good all the time, every day for the whole year. You mustn't tease the children, Peter, Aunt Eliza said. Ma said, Laura, aren't you going to let the other girls hold your doll? And she meant little girls must not be so selfish. So Laura let Mary take the beautiful doll, and then Alice held her a minute, and then Ella. They smoothed the pretty dress and admired the red flannel stockings and the gaiters and the curly woolen hair. But Laura was glad when Charlotte was safe in her arms again. Pa and Uncle Peter each had a pair of new warm mittens, knit in little squares of red and white. Ma and Aunt Eliza had made them, so their mittens had red and white squares on them. Aunt Eliza had brought Ma a large red apple stuck full of cloves. How good it smelled! And it would not spoil, for so many cloves would keep it sound and sweet. Ma gave Aunt Eliza a little needle book she'd made with bits of silk for covers and soft red flannel leaves into which to stick the needles. The flannel would keep the needles from rusting. They all admired Ma's beautiful bracket, and Aunt Eliza said that Uncle Peter had made one for her, of course with different carvings. Santa Claus had not given them anything at all. Santa did not give grown people presents, but that was not because they had not been good. Pa and Ma were good. It was because they were grown up, and grown up people must give presents to each other. And we will finish the rest of the chapter tomorrow. Wasn't that good? I love this book. So, signing off, chapter reading again tomorrow. Love you, Aqua Roomers. Bye.